Welcome on the channel Voices of Reddit. Today we have an intriguing story about the
I never thought I would find myself in this situation, grappling with the complex emotions that have enveloped me since my husband's passing. 3 months ago, my husband died unexpectedly, and instead of the overwhelming grief one might anticipate, I felt an immense sense of relief. It may sound cold, but the reality is far from the facade that others perceive. From the early days of our marriage, he abused me financially, mentally, and even physically. When I became pregnant, he convinced me to quit my job, assuring me that he would take care of everything. Little did I know that this was the beginning of my loss of independence. I could never purchase anything without his explicit permission, not even something as simple as a cream. He controlled every aspect of our finances. Even when I managed to earn a small amount of money on my own, I still had to ask him if I could spend it. What was mine was his, and what was his remained solely his. Despite the abuse, I stayed because I loved him and had nowhere else to go. My self-esteem was so diminished that I allowed myself to be trampled upon. By the time I realized I no longer loved him, he had already embarked on his first affair. He manipulated me into believing that I was to blame for his infidelity because I did not want to be intimate with him just months after giving birth, a birth that had left me torn and requiring stitches. I began secretly planning my escape, saving money little by little by selling things from home. He would not allow me to work outside because he was intensely jealous. I aimed to save enough to pay for a lawyer. Meanwhile, he was engaged in another affair with a friend of his, a man we both knew. Ironically, this affair kept him occupied, and I no longer cared that he was ignoring me. In fact, I wanted him to stay as far away from me as possible. I could have exposed their relationship, but I chose to remain silent, focusing on my plan to leave. I felt nothing but disgust toward my husband. Then, unexpectedly, my husband died in a manner I could never have predicted. Suddenly, he became a martyr in the eyes of everyone around us. It seems that when someone dies, all their sins are forgotten. Even my own family, who knew about his affairs and how he manipulated me, spoke of him as though he were a saint. They insisted that we should not speak ill of the dead. Everyone talked about how beautiful our relationship was. His family extolled what a great man he was and how he always focused on providing everything for me and our child. His affair partner, the very man he cheated on me with, hugged me at the funeral, telling me that my husband loved me. His friends reminisced about what a wonderful person he was. They all said he was now an angel in heaven, and I had to pretend to be the grieving widow. The day he died, I cried not out of sorrow, but out of sheer relief. I felt free for the first time in years. Had he lived, it would have taken me many more years to save enough to leave him. He would have made my life a living hell if he had discovered my plans, and he had often threatened as much whenever I tried to assert myself. Now, I have the house, I have everything, I receive a monthly allowance as a widow, and most importantly, I have my children entirely with me. I have started seeing a psychologist. Everyone assumes it is to cope with my grief, but in truth, it is to heal from the abuse I suffered at his hands. It was incredibly challenging to feign sorrow at the funeral, but I did it for my child. I played the role because now everything is over, and I am finally free. Had I revealed the truth, my ex-mother-in-law would have likely done everything in her power to strip me of everything. She's much like him, but now, in their eyes, I am the sad widow who needs help, naive woman who knew nothing. This perception has allowed me to secure what I deserve. Several weeks passed, and I began to move forward. I had almost forgotten about a post I had shared online detailing my experiences. Then, a few days ago, my late husband's lover and so-called friend showed up at my house, claiming he had found my post. I did not expect him to discover it, and it unsettled me. Apparently, someone had shared my story elsewhere without my permission. One of my sons let him in when I had not heard the doorbell, so I had no choice but to speak with him to avoid causing a scene in front of my children. Once we were alone, he confronted me. He said he knew that I was aware of their affair because of the post he believed I had shared on TikTok, even though I never post anything there. My children do not miss their father much, and I understand why. It took some time, but I was able to arrange for them to see a child psychologist, and they are progressing well. I, too, am attending therapy to heal and rebuild my life. I have started to distance myself from my ex-mother-in-law and even some of my own family members. I made excuses about work or not being at home to limit contact. Although I still have to allow my ex-mother-in-law to visit occasionally, I believe my children are happier seeing that my own mood has improved. I doubt that many people are interested in my story, but I wanted to share it nonetheless. Thank you to those who have sent me supportive messages, even if some do not fully understand the complexities of different cultures and legal systems. For many, buying a house or moving across the country is not something that can be done quickly or easily. In the end, I am reclaiming my life. I am learning to stand on my own, free from the shadows of my past. My journey is far from over, but for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful about the future.